Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer facing a transfer letdown from the board and current players within the squad. Also, little bit squeaky bum time around Raphael Varane. We are going to sign him, but he's still not arrived in Manchester, and that in itself makes it very, very nervy times about whether he will even be part of the team to play against Leeds in a little while. But look, lots to get into, loads to get into. Sorry, a little bit late this morning. Normally a 10 o'clock show, but I had to go into town to get my second vaccine this morning. So hence I was a little bit late. Levin was having new internet put in. Beth was at work. So basically we had no 10 o'clock cover. So I'm doing it a little bit later. So there you go. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe, bottom right hand corner. So let's get into the show. My arm's all right at the moment. Let's see what happens over the next 48 hours. But at the moment, I'm feeling good. Right, what I'm not feeling good about is this transfer story that has been developing all week, really. And now I think it's starting to come a bit of a reality. But we'll start off about this because this is I think this is more important than Varane. So this is from Laurie Whitwell, who writes with The Athletic. He's a Manchester United correspondent, and no doubt he will have links into the club. So you can take this that this is probably coming from the club. As things stand, the most likely outcome is that no midfielder joins Manchester United this summer. More signings after Jadon Sancho and Varane are dependent on sales, and movement on that front is slow. So Manchester United at this moment in time unlikely to get a midfielder in. And this to me is the thing and reason why I will not buy into a new page, a new dawn at Manchester United just because we've got Sancho and Varane. We've still got the Glazers in charge. And for me, this is Manchester United absolutely the last 16 years nailed on. We have done good things. We have brought in managers like Mourinho that could have won us a title. Players like Paul Pogba that are sensational. But we've never finished the job. And this is where I think you fall into the trap as some United fans who are buzzing, oh, you can't complain about Sancho and Varane. You can't complain about Sancho and Varane. They're very, very good players. But at the start of the summer, there was 3 key areas. And to come out of the summer in a positive way, we had to fill the 3 areas. You can't just go, well, we filled 2, give us a round of applause. There's still a glaring hole in that team. There is, and it's failure. And the failure is, for me, based around weak leadership within the football club again. Gary Neville said it 2 years ago. That club from top to bottom is a mess. And I still don't think it's much better. I think it's improved under Ole, but I still don't think it's massively better. Because ultimately, when you break down why we're not getting a midfielder, and it even says it in that same article, it says Manchester United are aware of Camavinga, Saul Niguez, Ruben Neves. They're aware those players are gettable, but they can't get them because they can't sell. And people like Jesse Lingard, Nemanja Matic and Dan James want to stay. Well, if they want to stay and we're letting them stay, look, you could blame the player. You could say, hold on a minute, Lingard, why are you staying at United? Dan James, why are you staying at United? Matic, why are you staying at United? You're not good enough to start. You're not going to start. So why are you staying at United? You could be playing every bloody game for West Ham, every game for Roma, every game for Leeds. Why are you staying at United? You're not good enough. And that's what the manager should be saying, not me as a fan. I've got nothing against those players individually. I just know they're not good enough to play for United. So effectively, I see them as money. I see Lingard, Matic and Dan James as 50 million quid. And 50 million buys us the midfielder we need. This is ruthlessness. This is what you need to be a Man City and a Chelsea. You need to be ruthless. You can't just go up to Dan James and say, do you want to leave? No, I want to stay. You sit him in the fucking office and you say, you've got no future here. You've got no future. I'll start you in the Carabao Cup and then the last 10 minutes against Norwich when we're 4-0 up at home. But you're not going to play. You're not going to be a first teamer. I'm going to use you as a bench player. That's your future. Well, I want to stay. Well, I couldn't make it any clearer. You're on the transfer list. You know, you've got to be ruthless if you want to get where you get. And it feels to me like United, for some reason, have bottled selling players. Because I accept we've got to sell players to buy a midfielder. But you will get a Ruben Neves. You will get a Saul Niguez. You will get a Camavinga. And you will get a Basuma for around 40 million. We've only got to raise 40 million quid. And the players are there to do it. Matic, James, Lingard are assets. People will want them. You will raise that money for it. They can't just say, I want to stay. And Ollie goes, fantastic, let's go play golf. You can't do that. You can't do that. They are expensive assets that are not part of the first team, and they must be moved on. We need a first team player. We don't need 4 people to sit on the bench who are good lads to have about. We need a midfielder. For me, everybody was quick to applaud the ins, and we've been bad at selling our deadwood. I don't care who we bloody signed. Idiot, says Nick. And I agree we need a CDM, but not willing to give Ollie an excuse for failure this season. Not every manager gets every player they want. Well, no, Aaron, you're right. I'm not giving Ollie any excuses because he didn't get a midfielder, because that would be ridiculously stupid. That would be ridiculously stupid to give Ollie a free pass because we didn't get a midfielder. He's a contributor to that. Like this, the club have made it very clear they've got to sell to buy. I can name you 5 or 6 players that will raise 80 million quid. Ollie's got to sit them down and say you're not part of the plans. That's the ruthlessness. People say, well, he got rid of Fellaini, he got rid of Lukaku. Well, here's the chance. We've absolutely screwed up this summer so far in relation to selling players. Sancho and Varane, fantastic. Everybody agrees with that. But the summer's not about buying a right winger and a centre-back. It's about getting a midfielder, and it's about removing the deadwood. So you could say 50% of the summer's been brilliant, 50% of it's been disappointing. And that's Manchester United under the Glazers. They flatter to deceive. They sell you part of a dream that you're meant to go, that's great. And actually the reality is, well, is it? This is very much like, imagine this Christmas you want a PS5, right? You're there under the tree. The presents are under the tree. The family's all around, or maybe you've got up early to open it yourself. The presents are under the tree. What do you do when you see your presents? You see that big present, the present that you're going to open last, right? Oh, I think I know what that is. So you start opening up the smaller presents. Oh, PS5, FIFA 22, banging. Oh, Spider-Man, PS5, banging. Right, let's open up the big present. Varane, Sancho, let's go for the big one. Open it up. It ain't a PS5. It's a box with clothes in it. What the hell am I supposed to do with these PS5 games? You haven't bought me a bloody PS5. Well, we had to sell to buy, and your PS4 didn't want to go on eBay. Bollocks to the PS4. Chuck it out the fuck. I don't want it. It's no use to me. And that is a little bit like what United are doing this summer. They've got the Varane. They've got the Sancho. We're really excited. We're so close to having the summer we need to have. And then we haven't gone and got the PS5. We haven't got that midfielder that binds it all together. We've gone and kept players that really are bloody Sega Master System players, and they're past it, or they're not good enough, or they don't work in the system that we've got. And United have got time, but they need a big kick up the arse, and they need a big wake up call, because I'm telling you now, I'm not going to not be. We are on the verge of a really important season. Really important season. We can't be Friends United. We can't be the Manchester United Charity Foundation. We've got to be look at what Man City are doing today. £100 million for a player they don't even fucking need. They don't even need Grealish. They've got Foden, Mahrez, Silva, Sterling, De Bruyne. They don't even need Jack Grealish. And they're spending more on Jack Grealish than we've spent on anybody. Anybody. That's what rivals are doing. And what are we doing? Well, Sancho's brilliant. Varane's brilliant. We need a midfielder. Oh, but Jesse, Dan and Matic don't want to go. Sell them! Sell them! Get them on the bloody transfer list. Make them aware they're not part of the plans. Because to be honest, at the end of the day, to be absolutely blunt, why do I need Lingard and James when I've already got Rashford, Greenwood, Sancho, Martial, Cavani? There's somebody else as well. Ahmad. Alanga. I don't need James and Lingard. I just don't need them. They're not a midfielder. I need a bloody midfielder. Stop handing me a spanner when I need a hammer. I need the tools to do the job. Give me the tools to do the job. Don't put it out there that, they need to sell to buy. It's a bloody joke. It's a joke. We can't go into this season needing a midfielder and being overstacked with attacking midfielders who he won't rotate anyway. So we've got to. Look, he's going to have to do something crazy. If he doesn't get a midfielder, he's going to have to make Pogba play in the midfield, which he doesn't like doing, or he's going to have to turn Donny into a midfielder, because you can't have the amount of attacking midfielders we've got. And I don't understand why players are making a decision on their future. Oh, I want to stay. Oh, do you? Oh, well, sorry. Come and sit down. I didn't realise Manchester United was up to the player. Sit down. Put a matchday shirt on, make yourself feel at home. Go and do a TikTok video. We're Manchester United. We should be making the decisions, and that's why I won't give Ollie a free pass on this. If we are keeping the Lingards and the Matiches and the Dan James and the Matters, then that's been authorised by Ollie, and he's left a big hole in his midfield. It's not the same as last summer. Steve Locke says, people used to hate us when we had the best of the best. We've now become the nice club of giving players chances, says Steve Locke. Be grateful you've got 2 world-class players, says Trucker, who's an Arsenal fan. I'm sure you'll do good business. But you know what I'm saying here? Do you know what I'm saying here? There is not the vaccine's got me mad. No, it isn't, Rogvia. What it is I'm very excited about the season ahead. And when I get excited, as people know, I get passionate. And when I get passionate, I just don't hold back, because I don't think you should hold back. We're Manchester United. I can see what Chelsea are doing. I see what Man City are doing. They're not messing about. So why are we messing about? I cannot give Ollie a free pass on the midfield this year. I gave him a free pass on Sancho last year because the board messed it up. I gave him a free pass last year on the centre-back situation because the board messed it up. We've got 4 weeks left of a transfer window. We've had 6 months to prepare for this transfer window. We've sold nobody and we've got no midfielder. That's not really on the board. Ollie has a part to play in this. There are players we can sell to get a midfielder. There are midfielders that are available at reasonable prices. That's on Ollie and the board. He can't just say, well, I wanted a midfielder and they didn't do it. He could have forced some of these players out of this club that are looking to stay. And the reality is, going back to the headline, The Athletic are basically saying that at the moment it looks very unlikely Man United will buy a midfielder. Well, look, the cold, harsh facts are this. Where do you raise 40 million quid from? We've not solved the goalkeeper situation. Henderson or De Gea could have brought 40 million in, so that's not been sorted out. Lingard's not been sold. That's 25 million. Dan James has not been sold. That's 20 million. Matic hasn't been sold. That's 10 million. Phil Jones can't be sold, and there's no money there anyway. So we leave ourselves with the only chance of raising money. And this is why I think everybody's starting to realise it's going to be very, very difficult for us to buy a midfielder now. Because with all those people, goalkeeper, Lingard, Matic, James, staying, and they shouldn't all be staying, but they are, we don't actually have any way of raising any money anymore. Because we'll talk about Pogba in a minute. Pogba can't be the reason. You can't sell Pogba to get the midfielder. That's idiotic. That's like selling your pants to buy a t-shirt. You know, Pogba's got to stay and a midfielder's got to come in. You would argue that a midfielder needs to come in to get the best out of Pogba. So it's not Pogba's sale. So realistically, by keeping Lingard, by not solving the goalkeeping situation, by keeping Dan James, by keeping Matic, all of which have the value to get as a midfielder, we basically, the only chance we've got of selling anybody is Pereira, and nobody wants to bloody buy him anyway, and he's certainly not going to raise enough for a midfielder. So we've messed it up. As things stand at the moment, we've messed this summer up. We've kept players that we should be selling, and we don't have the money to now buy a midfielder that is very easily attainable. Ami says the problem is that our deadwood is on crazy wages. No team can afford them. Add that to United's unrealistic transfer fee demands. We're stuck with them. Well, Ami, I sort of agree with you in a certain sense, but this isn't Marcus Rojo on 100 grand a week who nobody wants. This is Jesse Lingard on 80 to 100 grand a week at United, who most of the Premier League want outside the top 4. So you can sell him. Dan James, I don't think, is on stupid wages. I'm pretty sure Dan James is on less than 100 grand a week. People want him. So, there are players we can sell. We just don't want to do it. We can't just click our fingers and have a club appearing willing to pay for our unwanted players. It's quiet on that front means nobody's in for them. Bullshit, Jimmy. You're wrong. Sorry. You're wrong, Jimmy. You're absolutely wrong. We know teams want Dan James and we know teams want Jesse Lingard. So you're wrong. Those two players would get us the money for a midfielder. Andreas Pereira better not stay. Well, we'll end. The thing is, Andreas, Ewan, with Andreas Pereira and Dillo, we probably will move them on, but it'll be a loan. So we won't raise any money from that. Ollie doesn't set the price on the players. Maybe Ollie wants this lot gone, but bored or overpricing the players, says Corey Wright. I don't think Ollie does want them gone. I don't think Ollie wants Dan James gone. I don't think he wants Matic gone, and I don't think he wants Lingard gone. I mean, I'd love to be proved wrong on that, but in the absence of firm evidence, do you think Ollie wants Jesse gone? I mean, he's known him since he was about 10. Do you think he wants Dan James gone? He bought him. Do you think he wants Matic gone, having kept Mata there? I don't think Ollie wants these players gone at all. I think they're in the Friends Club, aren't they? I think they're in the Jobs for the Boys Club, which unfortunately United is a problem. So I think Ollie's got the power to say get rid of them. I just don't think he's sure about doing it. How can we sell players if they are on stupid wages? The board wanting stupid transfer fees, and it could even be that the players are happy to stay and earn cash and relax. Top to bottom rotten, says DK. Hi Mark, thanks for the show. We're still running in circles. We signed those players on high wages and now they're not affordable to smaller clubs. We need to change the wage structure, says AT. So we're starting the new season with no pre-season training or new tactics in place and a new winger who's yet to play and gel with his teammates, says Nick P. Mark, sad truth is from the club they don't want to buy or sell anyone, or they would do it. They have no intention of selling anyone, says Andy and Bruno. And so if a club comes in and says we want Jesse for 15 million, should we do it, says Jimmy Garner. But that's not what's on offer, is it? West Ham are willing to pay 25 million for Jesse Lingard. He doesn't want to go. That's the story. That's been the story for a few weeks. I don't think we're going to have any problems selling a player who was one of the best attacking midfielders outside the top four last season. There'll be people. Look, in a way, I hope Arsenal get Maddison, because then maybe Leicester will go for Lingard. But will he want to go? Does he want to play football, or does he want to actually sit on the bench at United? I don't know. But these players are a bit comfortable at United, obviously. I think somebody just said it there. They're comfortable. They're on good money. They're at Man United. It's the biggest club in England in relation to social exposure and, hype. And, maybe coming off the bench every game is what some of these players want, rather than going to a club and actually playing football. I don't know. Hi Mark, as soon as we signed Varane, had a feeling that would happen. Not once do we complete a transfer window and start a season with a statement, says Aditya. Well, bringing it back to that, I am a little bit worried. All I keep seeing is Liverpool playing pre-season games, Arsenal playing pre-season games, Chelsea playing pre-season games. We've not played pre-season games. I'm not counting that QPR and Derby game. That was just the youth. That was not pre-season. We've had no pre-season again. This is very, very similar to last year. We played Aston Villa in a pre-season friendly before we played Crystal Palace, and that was it. And we had a shit start to the season. And we have not played any games with our first team other than this Everton game. I personally think we shouldn't have gone to Scotland and we should have played on Wednesday. And I personally think we should be playing next Tuesday as well. I hope there's a behind the closed doors game next week, because Sancho's not even trained with the team yet. Varane, the latest with Varane, I don't know whether he's landed now, but he hadn't landed this morning. 5 days of quarantine. They're hoping to get the medical and everything done by the middle of next week. They've got to register him officially by Friday at noon to get him to play against Leeds. And I don't know whether that's Friday noon. I think that's Friday noon next week. So that will be done. But it's not just about getting a player in. This is not like the middle of the season where a player's played loads of games for the club you're buying them for. What sort of pre-season has Varane had? How ready can he be for that Leeds game? There's a lot of things worrying me about United, but ultimately I suppose when the game kicks off against Leeds in front of 75,000 fans at Old Trafford, the hype, the passion, the return, we can probably win that game on adrenaline, and I hope we can. But as we saw last year, adrenaline isn't always enough. The fitness levels have got to be up where they need to be, and unfortunately this Varane deal has dragged, as all United's deals seem to do. But the worry at the moment is that Sancho's not back training yet. Varane's nowhere near training with the team. So, we've not seen any. I'm looking forward to that Everton game on Saturday lunchtime, because I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do with Pogba. Is he going to put him on the left wing and play McFred? Is he going to play one holding midfielder with Pogba? I know Sancho won't play. I know Varane won't play, and that's a bit disappointing. But I'm really excited to see what he's going to do with that team, because I've got a funny feeling we'll see Magaluf, obviously, and we'll see McFred in the midfield, and we might even see Dan James on the wing. So, with a back six again, and is that a change? I'm hoping we're going to see Pogba in the midfield and a bit more expansive. Do you think we would have sold Dan James if Rashi was available, says Mohan? One of the big things about that, Mohan, is that I saw it today in the Athletic. We were going to loan Elanga, but now because of Rashford's injury, we're not going to loan Elanga. But Do you realise how many attacking midfielders you've got, Ollie? Like, what? One of the many drawbacks of having a nice guy manager, players that lack ambition want to play under him because the demands are low, says Andre. One word describing Man United: complacency from the board to the players, perfect curtain for Glazers to hide behind and ruin us, says Shravan. And the only positive I see in getting a CDM is that with Varane, we could easily play Donny van der Beek and Pogba as we can attack without Lindelof, says Ryan Crooks. Well, let me just give you a scenario here, right? Jadon Sancho was Jadon Sancho's deal? What was it in millions? Was it like, I know it's got add-ons to take it up to 80, but I think it's an initial 74, isn't it? So 74 million for Sancho. I know we're paying it over 5 years, but the fee is 74 million. Varane is definitely 34. So that's 108 million we've spent on Varane and Sancho, yeah? We normally have a net spend of about 70 million. If we don't buy another midfielder and we sell a couple of players for 20 million each, our net spend is the same as every other year. You've been conned, really. It's 70 million net spend. So don't be surprised if we don't buy a midfielder but we do sell a player or two, because then it gets United bored in this situation that they really want to be in. They want to be in the same as every year. We're happy to spend 70 million net, nothing more. This midfield thing is a joke. I'm absolutely not surprised, but I'm really disappointed, because I thought, if you'd have said to me 3 weeks ago, I thought we had the momentum and I thought we were going to do something very special with this transfer window. And you hear people talking about the restructure at United and what a big difference these people are making. Well, ultimately, what big difference? You know, I'd almost like to have a chat with these people who talk about, oh, United mean business this summer. You can already see the big change in the club with the restructure and the director of football and the football director, and Woodward needs business and oh yeah, United, it's so much better now. Well, sit down. Let's talk properly. Forget Sancho. That was last summer's deal. We messed it up. We got it done this summer. Varane, very good deal. Do you want to tell me the rest? Where are the sales? Where's the midfielder? Varane's a good deal. Maybe it's a bit of an obvious deal. Maybe it's a bit opportunist. You know, who else can buy Varane? 1 year left on his deal. Wants a new challenge. Very good deal. Don't start telling me about United's board walking in like a boss because they've restructured. I don't think it's been a great transfer window at the moment. I don't. I think Sancho should have happened last summer. I think Varane is an amazing signing and I'll never stop applauding that. But everything else has been the same as ever. We've let this transfer window drag. We've been indecisive on sales. I've been saying this for 2 or 3 years now. We always approach a transfer window and say we've got to sell 5 or 6 players. And in your head, you think, we've got to sell 5 or 6 players. And you get to August and we've sold nobody. Again, I don't really understand why we're so bad at removing players from the club. Manscaped products better at clearing useless stuff than Man United board, says Connor. They signed a player from last season, Varane, and painted front of Old Trafford. That's it. Some fans have been buzzing with that, says Dazzo. And Mark, you're right. End of. I wish you wasn't, mate, but you are. There's still time, Andy and Bruno. There is still time for United to sort this out. And I'm not saying that, you know, the summer's not over and this board can still turn things around. But if I'm Murta and I'm Fletcher, I'm not playing golf in Scotland, giving myself high fives. I'm working. There's still plenty to do. Saw Darren Fletcher scoring a good goal on the Scottish breakaway because he's one of the coaches. You know, I'd be straight on the side on my laptop, you know, trying to sort something out, trying to sort players out, literally out to get players in. I'm worried. I'm worried about that midfield. It really worries me. I don't rate McTominay. I don't rate Fred at the level I think they need to be. And look, let's hope and pray that they can go up a level, but the evidence over the last 2 years is they're not good enough. Matic is finished because of Solskjaer. Solskjaer finished him, not us. At the end, this time last year, I was like, Matic was playing really, really well at the end of the season before last. We come into the new year, he never picks him. Retires from international duty, you think, oh, he's elongating his career. Doesn't pick him, so you've got to assume he's done. I'm worried about that midfield. Pogba, you know, there won't be another summer when midfielders of the quality of Saul, Neves, Camavinga, Basuma, Zakaria are all available for 40 million and under. Yeah, and I think Kevin Millington's absolutely spot on there. That's the thing that disheartens the most, is that there is an abundance of midfielders available that are better than what we've got. there's risk attached to any signing. Of course there is. I mean, look, Sancho could flop, but the reality is there's so many midfielders out there that are better than what we've got for a reasonable price. The most scary thing is I think Ollie thinks that those fringe players are good enough for our team. I don't think Ollie knows how to judge players as a team, says Minnie. Well, look, you know what? Ollie's under pressure this season. I don't think, as somebody who's Ollie in but has doubts, I don't think he's got anywhere to go this season. He's got to get it right. There is no excuse for not rotating your team. There is no excuse for playing McTominay and Fred as a midfield two when you've brought Varane in. There is no excuse not to be breaking teams down and scoring goals when you've got players like Bruno and Sancho and Pogba there. He's got to deliver. The start to the season, for me, looks like 8 wins in a row. That's what Man City and Chelsea would look at. So he's got to deliver. And it's on him as much as it's on the board if he doesn't get a midfielder. For me, if we don't get a midfielder, that's Ollie saying he doesn't want one. That's how I'm interpreting it. I'm not going to give him an excuse of, well, the board didn't deliver, because you can't say the board, you can't say Solskjaer's been, mistreated by not getting a midfielder if he's happily putting people like Lingard and James and Matic on his bench. Those players could have been moved on. You could have brought a midfielder in. So you're part of the problem there. But look, maybe it'll work. Mark, it's shocking we still don't get rid of the deadwood, and what's going on with Varane and Sancho, or the CDM is going to be next summer signing, says Alison's TV channel. Maybe we'll never buy a midfielder. Anyway, let's move on to some other news. We've spoken about Varane. Obviously, Varane is meant to be flying in today. 5 days quarantine. Friday, Saturday. I mean, he's not doing his medical until at least next Tuesday, Wednesday, is he, by the look of it? Also, Paul Pogba, the Athletic, saying that there is interest in Paul Pogba from PSG. They certainly have the tools to buy Paul Pogba if they want to. There's been a lot of talk about PSG selling to buy, but there is definitely an opportunity for PSG to buy Paul Pogba. But I can tell you that the Athletic are saying that PSG just fear that Pogba doesn't absolutely want to leave this summer to go to France, and ultimately is settled physically and mentally in Manchester for now. And I think that this just verifies the story that we've been talking about on here for months. Pogba will stay and run his contract down. At the moment, that's the story. Now, some people don't like that story. Oh, he might sign a contract, Mark. Yeah, he might. He might sign a contract. But as of now, Pogba's doing what we predicted he'd do last April. He will run his contract down. Why would you go to PSG right now when there might be different options in a year? It very much is like, going on a lad's holiday. You walk into a bar, you see something attractive, they smile back at you, and you go with that when you've not even entered the full bar yet. If that's the first person, there might be another 5. And I think for Pogba, that's the story, isn't it? PSG is very attractive, but when he actually frees himself up and has a look around and a bit of a boogie on the dance floor, there's Real Madrid and there's Barcelona and there's maybe Bayern Munich, maybe Juventus, maybe Chelsea, Man City. If Man City want Paul Pogba, they'll get him, by the way. Not complaining, Mark. Just got little time in the Euros. Sancho got little times in the Euros. Also missed the penalty in the final. There should be more rage to prove his points in United shirt. He should be the first one to start the training, says Pratic. I don't know. I don't know. You know me. I have an opinion on most things. Let me just check. Somebody's just messaged me about some United news. I have an opinion on most things, and I'm more than happy to give a passionate opinion on most things. But when it comes to this whole, the whole break that players have had, I've got to be honest and say that I don't really understand and have no knowledge as to why Manchester United have why Sancho got an extra week from Maguire and Shaw. Maguire and Shaw actually played in the Euros. Sancho didn't really play. Sancho's season ended at Dortmund before United. If you compare Sancho to Shaw and Maguire played, their season lasted 2 weeks longer. I think Dortmund played at least a week or two before we played our Europa League game. So he was off for a couple of weeks before that. Didn't really play in the Euros and has had a week longer holiday as well. I don't know. I can't be critical of it because I don't know. There might be a very good reason why he's been given longer. But his summer has not been intense as Maguire and Shaw, and yet they're back training before he is. Paul Pogba was knocked out of the Euros 2 weeks before Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire, and yet he came back training after them. So Cavani was knocked out before Fred, and yet Fred's back in training before Cavani. I don't know why Cavani, Pogba and Sancho have been given longer off than other players. I don't know. And there may be very good reasons around that. You know, they might have been pre-arranged, more time with your family. You know, I don't know. But the preparation isn't great for United. And a lot of that's to do with the fact that we haven't got enough pre-season games as well. Mark, how did our players get a longer break? City, Chelsea and others have had first-team players playing for 2 games at least. Is it Ollie's fault? Ollie could have told them to return quicker. The thing about football, Danielle, and the thing about football is this. You cannot escape in the modern game evidence. If we start this season badly and we drop, say we draw to Leeds and we draw to Wolves and we drop 4 points, they're not good results. We need to beat Leeds. We need to beat Wolves. We need to beat Southampton. We need to beat these teams in the first 3 games. We need to take 9 points. Anything less than 9 points is failure. That's the level that Man United's at now. Now, there will be fans saying, well, it's not. Might be a really good draw against Leeds. And I'll say, it is. We're Manchester United. We're trying to compete with Man City, Chelsea and Liverpool. We must take 9 points from the first 3 games of the season. Therefore, we've got to be prepared from minute 1 of that game against Leeds. Now, if we lose games because we're not prepared, then people will look at this pre-season and go, why was our pre-season not so unorganised compared to a Chelsea or a Man City? I mean, look, Chelsea are playing Man City in a competitive game on Saturday in the Community Shield. We're playing Everton in our first pre-season game. It is a worry, but we don't know, and we shouldn't. Well, you can be worried about it. I'm worried about it, but it might not matter because we might beat Leeds, Wolves and Southampton, have 9 points and go, we're fine. But if we replicate what we did last year and we take 3 points from 9, then the pressure, and quite rightly, will be based at the club and saying, why have we had such a shit pre-season? Why are we not prepped? And you can't just say there was a COVID outbreak, because that COVID outbreak wasn't as big as actually was first mentioned. And also, you could have rearranged the pre-season games. We could have got people back earlier. Why didn't we do that? And in the absence of knowledge at the moment, that's why there's concern. Ollie said he needs 3 or 4 more players multiple times at the end of the season. If we only sign 2, that is not him not getting what he wants, says Jimmy Garner. But that's him, you know, Jimmy, you sound to me like you're somebody that wants to be very defensive of Ollie, right? That's absolutely fine. But if we look at this situation, Juan Mata's at the club because Ollie wanted to keep him. Nemanja Matic is still at the club because Ollie wants to keep him. Jesse Lingard and Dan James are still at the club because Ollie at the moment wants to keep them. He needs to show ruthlessness in removing players to create the money to buy the midfielder. And if he doesn't do that, then he's part of the problem as a manager. And if that's because he's too nice, then he's too nice. Whatever. But I don't think he should get any excuses going into this season. I think the squad is good enough to make a bigger impact than it did last season in the way that we play, in the way that we rotate, in the way that we win games. And he's overstacked in attacking positions. And we're not well stacked in midfield, and that should have been addressed. Hi Mark, surely Ollie should learn from last season. We can't have Leeds running us off the pitch, says Mikael Roach. Well, Leeds is to come, as we know. Just on Dalot, this is from Fabrizio Romano about Dalot. Happy to stay at Manchester United if Manchester United want him to stay. Otherwise, there's talk of Spain, there's talk of Italy. For me, based on the conversation we're having today, keep Dalot. Keep Dalot, because this money we're going to spend, I will be bloody fuming if we don't buy a midfielder but we find 20 million to buy Trippier. I'll be bloody fuming. Keep Dalot, and if there is any money, get the bloody midfielder in. Don't, I think there's a player in Dalot. I know it's divisive, but I think there's a player in Dalot. Dalot should be kept at this football club. We should not be bloody running a million miles an hour trying to get rid of Dalot to bring in a backup right back. That to me is not progression. Ooh, we've got a better right back as a backup right back. We need a bloody midfielder. That should be the focus at United over the next few weeks. We need a midfielder. Thomas says, I've just subscribed, bro. I think we will struggle this season. Going to be hard to finish in the top 4. Yeah, Thomas, thanks for subscribing, but I think you're miles off. Obviously, next season's going to be about the Premier League build-up and the Leeds game and the season ahead and how we're going to do. And we've got Sunday night show, everything. But, I'm not spoiling anything by saying that we will be comfortably top 4 this year. We might not be comfortably in a title race. We might be nowhere near a title race. But we've got to be comfortably top 4 this year. I actually think it's... I don't know about you lot, but I think it's impossible not to finish in the top 4 with that squad. I think you could put. I'm trying to think of a manager that's not that fashionable. You could put Nuno in charge of Man United, he'd get his top 4. You could put Arteta in charge of United, he'd get his top 4. You could put Hasenholt in charge, he'd get his top 4. I think you could put the Villa lad. What's his name? Is it Dean Smith? He'd get his top 4. That and that's in no way am I taking away anything from Ollie. I don't think many of those managers could have got a second place last year. But what I'm saying is we can't be expecting to not finish in the top 4. I think it's nailed on. Absolutely nailed on. Hi Mark, do you feel United will get back to a Ronaldo, Rooney, Tevez type team again this lifetime? Says SJ Fox. We can hope. I hope we can. Minnie says, Glazer ask Ollie, do you think we need a CDM? Ollie answer no. Need, because I got players that will listen to me. They will run for their life for me. Glazer said, understood, just like you, who always listens to us, says Minnie. Okay. Having said that, if we get Trippier and no midfielder, I cannot defend Ollie on that, and McFred better turn into Xavi and Iniesta. Well, the thing is, Jimmy, we shouldn't even be playing McFred next year, regardless of whether we buy a midfielder. That would make me throw up anyway. I did say this, and I've got to be very careful because the clip is probably around somewhere. I said at the end of last season, if Ollie starts this season with McFred, I will be Ollie out very quickly, which is dangerous because what if he starts McFred and then we win the bloody league? You can't be Ollie out then. But you know what I mean? It's like, even if we don't buy a midfielder, and we desperately should, he shouldn't be starting McFred anyway. There's no need. We've done this so many times. You go here, right? When you've got Varane and you've got Maguire, that pace of Varane pushes you higher up the pitch. The ability on the ball of Varane and Maguire means that you do not need to shield them with 2 holding midfielders. You need 1, which means Pogba can play. Now, the problem we've got is we only need 1 holding midfielder, really. Pogba will support, Van der Beek will support if he plays, but you don't need to play 2 holding midfielders in front of Varane and Maguire. At the end of the day, you stifle Varane and Maguire if you put 2 people in front of them. You need 1 player there. The problem is, can Fred do it with his trampoline toes? I'm not so sure. Can McTominay do it? His passing range is abysmal. His forward passing stats are terrible. And, so that's him. Can Matic do it with his legs? No, I don't think Fred can do it. I don't think McTominay do it. And I don't think Matic can do it effectively. So therefore, you need somebody to do it. That's the problem. We've bought Varane to enable us to play with 1 holding midfielder and get rid of McFred. But we haven't got... The reason we played McFred, the reason they're called McFred, is because there are 2 players doing 1 player's job. Well, we can't do that next year. We need 1 person doing that job. So it's either McTominay or Fred. Well, that's not McFred, is it? So one of them's got to do that job, and I just don't think that they're good enough to do it, which is why we need to buy someone. Virgo says, Jose, Van Gaal and Moyes all had little say over the ins and outs. Why are we assuming that Ollie does? The Glazers control this squad. Ollie doubt. There we go. Rogvi says, we can get Neves if we get rid of Lingard. It's unfair to put the blame at anybody's door, but to be honest with you, it's not. Well, actually, it's not just Lingard. Lingard gets you 25 million. You've got to move somebody else on. But maybe if you get Lingard out, you get Pereira out. There's your midfielder. You get Lingard out, you get Matic out. There's your midfielder. Romano has always said United won't buy a midfielder if they don't get somebody out, and he mentioned Matic, but it's gone very quiet on Matic. He mentioned Pogba and Van der Beek, and obviously it looks like both those are staying. So. You can't blame Lingard for wanting to stay at United. That's not what's happening here. You can't blame James or Matic for wanting to stay at United. But what you can blame is the club for not being ruthless. I mean, look, we all want to play for Man United. We're not sat there with a squad shirt. We're not good enough. But even the players that are good at football aren't necessarily good enough. And they need to be, there needs to be a ruthless element there. There does. I mean, Pep Guardiola did it with Aguero, one of the greatest players that's ever played for Man City, you don't have a place next season, and he goes to Barcelona. You know, he's still a very good player, but Pep's like, you don't have a place anymore. And there we are with players that aren't even good enough for our first team, but we're going, yeah, you can stay. That's what I mean about ruthlessness. Take away the personality. Take away the relationship you have with the player and get in the real football world of what it takes to win. What it takes to win is taking a player like Aguero and saying, I don't want you anymore. Even though he'd be the best player at most Premier League clubs, Pep Guardiola said to him, I don't want you anymore. Pep Guardiola is going to win the Champions League at some point. He might win the Premier League again. He's the current Premier League holder. What are we doing? Yeah, well, you've had a decent loan at West Ham, or yeah, we've spent £15 million on you from Swansea. It's not really worked well, but stay another year. Take up a place on the bench. Come off the bench. Maybe start a few games. That's not ruthless, especially when you need the money from those players to bring in a player that's going to make us better. And this is United's problem. We've got the PS5 games, but we haven't got the PS5. And we just don't want to complete the summer. But it's over to United. You know, we can talk about this. We can rotate this story as much as we want. We know we need to sell. We know the players that need to go. And when they go, we can buy the midfielder that we know are available. It is our problem as fans because we have to deal with it. But the frustrating thing is we've got the players to sell. There's players there to buy in that midfield thing, and it's United's job to get it over the line. But what if United were only ever focused on PR spin? At the end of last season, they got rumbled on the Super League. They had protesters getting on the pitch. They had barriers going up around Old Trafford, and the Glazers were in trouble. 3 months later, you buy Varane, you buy Sancho, you get a new kit with a new team sponsor on, and everything's calm. Do you need to go and do the extra spending? Do you need to go and do that? Or is it like, well, look, we're where we want to be again. We're not liked, but the waves have been calmed down. The fire's been put out. And at the moment, that's what I feel has happened. They've put the fires out. They're not particularly liked, but nothing really bad is happening. And actually, if it goes wrong next season, they'll go after the manager anyway. And, you know, from United's point of view, as a business, that's what it feels like we're at the moment. But there are 4 weeks left. And maybe we will continue to act like a football club because there's no doubt that Varane and Sancho are brilliant signings. The problem is there was 3 big issues this summer and we've only solved 2. Therefore, you don't get the cake to eat. Moyes was more ruthless on outgoing, says Steve Locke, and Ollie will give Scott every chance to succeed. Him playing with Pogba in Europa was telling, says Andy Harris. Mate, they love Scott McTominay at Manchester United. There's a lot of fan bases. There's a lot of fans in our fan base that love Scott McTominay as well. Well done. I hope it works. I'm worried about it. I've not seen anything so far that makes me think that can work. I'd love it to work. I really, really do. But McTominay would have to change the way he plays football. And look, let's not talk about individuals because it can be Fred, it can be Matic, it can be McTominay. It could even be trying to use Van der Beek in that role. You can't polish a turd in football. You can't polish a turd in football because if you could take a player, and look, let's not focus on United players per se. Let's say, right. Let's say Fred. Okay, so Fred, right? You want to turn Fred into Kante, right? If that was easy to do, why would Man City go and spend £100 million on Jack Grealish? Why would they want to spend £120 million on Harry Kane? Why would United spend £80 million on Sancho? Why would we go and get Varane? If you can turn a player into a better player, why doesn't everyone do it? Why didn't we turn Lindelof into Varane? Why didn't we turn Greenwood into Sancho? Why don't Man City turn Mahrez into Grealish? Why don't they turn Jesus into Harry Kane? And the reality is because these people you can't create it. You can't create it. And United try to create it all the time because it's cheap. We try to put square pegs into round holes. We try and turn Ashley Young into a left back. We try and turn Valencia into a right back. And to a certain extent it works quite well, but we all knew even when they were doing quite well they had major flaws. You can't do it. You can't turn Scott McTominay into Carrick. You can't turn Fred into Kante. You can't turn Matic into bloody Schweinsteiger. You can't do it. Because if you could do it, you wouldn't need to buy players. there can be progression, there can be a change. And look, Scholes went from striker, attacking midfielder, centre midfielder, holding midfielder, and pretty much was world class in every position he did, whilst adapting. But it's very difficult to do. And I would love Fred to become Kante. I would love McTominay to become Prime Carrick. I would absolutely love it. But just because you've got Carrick training you doesn't mean you're going to be that. And the reason, this is why you need to go and buy players who are proven, because they're already at that level. But we'll have to wait and see. Mahan says, we've got the PS5, Mark, and the games too, but the controller is a duplicate, probably from a third party, says Mohan. I like it. Mark, I'm worried Ollie will play back five as excuse he did not get the CDM. Thank you for all what you do, says Ali Jabbar. I'd hate to see a back five, mate. I really, really would. Make sure you smash a like on the video if you're watching, by the way, and subscribe. As I say, I'm sorry it's a bit of a later morning show today. Sort of become a lunchtime show. But I had to go for my second vaccine today, so I couldn't do the 10 o'clock show. Which has actually worked out quite well because we've had the Varane update because of that. And the Varane update is that he's meant to be flying in today, 5 days quarantine, medical mid next week, and if he's going to play against Leeds, he's got to be registered by next Friday, which is plenty of time. I mean, look, he will be training with United by the middle of next week, but 2 training sessions and then start against Leeds. I don't think Varane starts against Leeds. I think we've already missed that boat. I'm worried whether Sancho starts against Leeds. I mean, he's only training tomorrow. If we manage to sell players, surely we will look to do a last-minute deal for a midfielder. Don't believe Ollie is that blind for thing. He doesn't need a CDM, says Vincent. Well, I think Vincent makes a good point there. I'm not totally closed off to the fact that we might get a midfielder in. I still think it's possible to sell Jesse Lingard at the back end of the window when he realises he's not going to play much. So we could, but what we need to accept is, and I suppose you could say it's a level of failure anyway, is that, look, if Varane doesn't start against Leeds, that's failure. The signing is brilliant, but you're jeopardising 3 points. If Sancho doesn't start against Leeds, that's failure, because it's a brilliant signing, but you're jeopardising 3 points. And if we don't buy a midfielder this season, we're jeopardising trying to be in a title race, because I think a midfielder makes us better. But even if we do buy a midfielder, it's not happening before the Leeds game. Probably not going to happen before the Southampton or Wolves game. It probably comes in at the end of the window. So there's 9 points there that we're playing around with by not having the players that we should have in anyway. Even if we do that. Maybe Van der Beek is bulking up for a deeper role, says Liam. Mate, I'd love to see Van der Beek play as a holding midfielder, but I'm never going to say it can work because it's out there. It's speculative. It's fanciful. It's not really what Van der Beek's all about. I mean, I'd love it to work, but again, it's still square pegs in round holes. No matter how much you love Van der Beek, that's not what he was bought for. That's not what his role is. Ollie's not ruthless tactically, not good. Sack him, says Jay. Okay, I think you've got to give Ollie a chance. We will park the bus against Leeds and scrape a result. Vintage Ollie ball. Well, it'd be interesting, actually. You know what? Leeds, Levin said it on the show last night. What a great point it was. Leeds have had a pre-season. Leeds have played a lot of games with their first team. I don't know what their results have been, and I don't think results massively matter. It's about fitness. Leeds have had a pre-season. Bielsa ball is aggressive and tenacious and relentless and intense. We can't go into that game and sit back, because they will dominate that ball. I remember Leeds' first game in the Premier League last year against Liverpool. Liverpool won it, but bloody hell, it was an amazing game at Anfield. So Leeds will be a difficult game, but we've got to be careful. I mean, Ajax beat them yesterday, but I mean, I don't really. We got smashed by QPR, but it wasn't even our first team. So pre-season isn't massively about results, but it is about fitness. And I don't think you can get the fitness intensity from training together. I don't. So we'll have to wait and see. But I do think it's a very interesting opener, and our fitness levels are going to have to be very, very good, which is something we pride ourselves on. You know, apparently our fitness levels are very good. Leeds played their B team last night as well. Shub says, I think there's a chance that Dan James will start because of his pace. Yeah, I mean, look, Ricky loves Dan James. A lot of United fans love Dan James. It's all about opinion at the end of the day. But, I mean, if somebody tries to tell me that Dan James is anything other than kick and run, that's what he is. Maybe we will sit back against Leeds and park the bus and hit them on the break with Dan James. But it says a lot about our coaching if we're going to rely on pace on the break, hit and run. I mean, it's not really high end coaching, is it? But it'd be a shame, and I suppose it goes back to what we were talking about before. If we've got to sit back against Leeds and hit them on the break with pace, that's a real indication of what a mess this pre-season is, isn't it? Because we did that last year. Where's the preparation for this season? It feels like United's preparation for this season is worse than anybody else's. Hardly any pre-season games, loads of players still not back, and a massive game coming up in a week. It does feel like the preparation for our season on paper doesn't look that good. And if we start against Leeds hitting on the break with Dan James, then we're not ready for this season, are we? This season should be about starting as we mean to go on. I don't want to bring anything from last season into this year. If we're going to change, I want to start from the first minute. I want to start with one holding midfielder. I want to start with a better fluid way of playing. I don't want to start with a back six because Varane's not ready, Sancho's not ready. A back six, Dan James on the left, Greenwood on the right, Cavani, Bruno isolated, hitting them on the break. Maybe we'll start with Pogba on the left wing again. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think we need to worry too much about that. But I do worry a little bit about our preparation for this season because it doesn't look great on paper. Will Cavani be right? I mean, Lynn Hall makes a great point. I think Cavani will be on the bench with Greenwood up front. Even Lingard could start. James on for Sancho second half. You're right, Lynn. I mean, why would Cavani... I don't even know why I'm thinking Cavani would start. Cavani's not back yet. So, yeah. 1 week of training is basically what Cavani and Sancho are going to get. They won't play against Everton. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting how it starts and how it finishes, really. Anna Rudd, thank you very much. Welcome to the Members Club. Gabriel Noel, why can't we offer Axel Bay to Leicester with 40 to 50 million for Ndidi with Fofana out? Well, you can't do those sort of deals. You can't do those sort of deals. 1 minute, there's a bloody cat just come into the next room, shouting to come on the stream. Shame it's not a midfielder. Would have welcomed him in. Come and join us. Yeah, you can't do those deals. You can't just go and get Ndidi. You can't just go and get Ndidi because you think you've created a deal to do. And what you're talking about there is ridiculous. You can't... We can't even sell... Will you miss Lindelof, says Timo. He'll be playing next week, Timo. Don't you worry about that. We can't sell players that people want to buy a midfielder that wants to come. We can't do the deal that Neves would come to United if we sold Lingard and Matic, and that's easy to do compared to what you're saying, which is let's go to Leicester and say, do you want Twan Sebi and somebody else for Ndidi? What, a player they don't want to sell for players they don't really want? The deals are there to be done. The deals are there to be done. What I would say is, though, I don't know whether anybody saw it, but we played Villarreal in the Europa League final, which I'm sure you all saw. Villarreal played Leicester last night. The tackle on Fofana was disgusting, and he's probably out for the season now. He's running forward as centre-back, and this Villarreal player slide tackles him with the left foot, but then with the right foot scissors him, brings it in. Now, I was disgusted with it last night, and people said, he gets the ball. It's not the left foot that gets the ball that's the problem. It's what he does with the right foot. When you slide tackle, you don't need to move your right foot across and scissor his legs. Disgusting. And I said last night he should be banned as long as Fofana is injured. Until we start, look, people get injured. People do get injured, and it can be an accident. But that was blatantly disgusting. He didn't need to scissor tackle him, and he's broken his leg doing it. He should be banned for a very long time because there's no element of doubt. That tackle was a disgrace. You can slide tackle somebody properly and break their leg. That was disgusting. He did not need to scissor him like that. It was vicious. Mark, I did this last year and it feels like Groundhog Day, but here goes our first presser. Well, the lads did really well, as we've had no time together. Give us time, a few months, and we'll get there. He can't. Yeah, well, Nick, he can't do that this time. He won't get that patience from Ollie inners, let alone Ollie outers. He can't do that. Last year was fine. It was a ridiculously short break, and we were cold because of it. This year, there's no excuse. Mark, do you think Donny wanted Goretzka did? If you have seen, Dode is a lot bigger and buff now. Maybe Ollie wants to convert him to a DM. Sehan, that's just speculation at the moment. I don't think we're going to use Van der Beek as a holding midfielder. Well, Way says, we shouldn't sign a midfielder right now if Pogba isn't leaving. Focus on youngsters like Hannibal and how Dortmund giving chance to Jude Bellingham. And why does Varane have to quarantine? Would Rail be in a bubble of some sort? I think he has to quarantine because he's just coming in from Spain. I think that's basically what's happening there. I don't think it's any other reason than that. Yeah, that's because pre-season isn't actually good, Mark. No first team players have enough minutes into their legs, as well as not sharp. Advath, I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe give some context in your question. Do you think that Phil Jones is better than Victor Lindelof? I think you're a prat, Timo. I think you're a prat, and I think you need to stop doing super chats. And Jack B says, could we see James Garner at DM? No. No. He wasn't even starting him in the pre-season games when we had no first teamers available. He needs to go on loan. He will go on loan. Absolutely there. So yeah, let's just to summarise. Athletic are saying what we've been talking about for a few days, that at the moment it's highly unlikely that United will sign a midfielder. They need to sell to buy, and it's very slow on the sales. Lingard said he wants to stay. Dan James wants to stay. Matic wants to stay. So we've got no players to sell. We haven't solved the goalkeeping issue. We can't sell any players, therefore we can't buy a midfielder. So we're in a very frustrating situation where midfield was a massive priority to improve this summer, and we've not done it, despite the fact there's 4 or 5 players that are better than what we've got for about 40 million quid. We can't even raise £5 million at the moment. We've sold nobody. And again, apparently we're running this summer window's being run like a boss. This is the best summer transfer window we've ever had. Well, it's not. This actually isn't the best summer transfer window we've had, despite what people want to say. It's not. I can think of 3 or 4 summer transfer windows better than this under the Glazers, because we bought good players in and we got rid of players. This is not a good transfer window at the moment. Varane and Sancho are amazing signings, but we've failed to sell players, and therefore we can't get the third most important signing in either. So that's where we are at the moment. I think the Glazers had one aim this summer: put the fire out. Put the fire out of all the issues that were caused by the Super League. Put that fire out. And they've done it. The Sancho and Varane signings are very good. It's put the fire out. But to be honest with you, it's very similar to a lot of other summer transfers we've had, whereby it's good, but we haven't completed it. We've not completed it. And at the moment, it's not looking great that we will. Please confirm your cat is called Bruno Fernandes, says Luke Jones. I wish. Very excited for the new season, Mark. Any news on when Sancho will start training? Tomorrow, Mark, is when Sancho is due back. Varane probably won't train with the team until at least next Wednesday. Cavani's not back yet either. So, yes. Rashford's not fit. He's having an operation, Kyle. Career mode today. Laksha. I'll try and get some career mode in. Lingard jersey isn't for sale on United store. Is that a sign? Says BOM. I think it is. I think it is for sale. Anyway, look, thanks everyone for watching. Please smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. We'll be back at 8 o'clock as usual. And if anything happens this afternoon, we will go live. But at the moment, it is very quiet. It's like the Tottenham trophy cabinet. Very quiet. Nothing going on. So let's wait and see. Thanks for watching. Speak to you all in a bit.